Hi, Warren Whitlock here with Thomas Mangum, talking about connections as we do every week in this same time and same channel. And hello, Thomas.
Hey Warren, always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure, you know. And the interesting thing is, I picked a topic for this week, to, at least to start off with, as about things that may not seem like a pleasure at the time. I had last week. I had a situation where I talked to somebody that bumped into him in public, and I was dining alone, as was she, and we ended up talking for a while. I said, I need to go. I'm out of time. And we talked for longer and actually stood at the table as I was trying to leave, going on and on and on about all things political, attitudes about current events, and a bunch of things that, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't brought up and we didn't necessarily agree with. But throughout the whole thing, we were civil and getting along with each other. And so thought maybe we'd go a little bit different direction. Instead of talking about picking the people that resonate with you and limiting doing business to those that you can get along with, which I think is great advice. But what do you do when you feel like you're in a situation that you're stuck? I mean, I actually sat there thinking, like, should I invite her to sit down and eat with me? And I don't know. But this was before any of the discussion where we found out we disagreed on things. But, I was kind of like, is there a way I can get out of this? Can I just eat my meal and leave? No, the polite thing to do is to ask her to sit down. And I feel like more connected, closer, and I can get along fine with the person afterwards. I'm glad I did it. But so I'd like to get your take on it. What do you do when it seems like you're stuck talking to somebody you don't like?
Well, first, I'm compelled to clarify that I genuinely believe that there are people that we're meant to serve, and from their perspective, they're meant to be served by us. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't require being polite and appropriate, because, stick with me, guys, on this one, is because I think polite and appropriate is something that many of us do really well and it becomes very cancerous. It's that putting on the smiley face. I am not a believer in that. I'm not a believer in putting on a smiley face and being polite and appropriate and things like that. Now, stick with me, because the other side of the coin is I am for cultivating joy in my life, looking at people as great, communicating with love. For those of you that don't know, Warren and I we're very different in certain ways. And it's really interesting, because I think on the surface, if you hung around with us and you studied our political, religious, and all sorts of different beliefs, you might find out it's like, holy cow, why are these two friends? And it's interesting. But here's the thing that I know, and I'm using Warren and I as an example, is I love Warren. He is a human. He's another human like me. And I love Warren, and just as anyone else out there, because I see them as human, I respect and I love them as a being on this earth. And I believe that the creator of the universe, we're here because for a specific reason. And so to hate on someone, to hate Warren or some other individual, I believe that's a smack in the face of the great spirit, universe, God, what have you, all right? And I can keep that kind of generic, because I think, I think that's fair. And so I think that's why I can still find love and gratitude and joy in being with another person, even if it's a person that I don't get along with. I still don't think it's appropriate to be, I don't think it's right to be appropriate and fake. It's the fake thing. When I say appropriate and polite, I mean if it's a fake thing. Because it always breeds resentment, and to me it does. And I think for the other person, they know when you're being kind of fake. Because maybe, you listening to this right now, you can be nice and appropriate, and that's congruent with you, and you feel good about that. For me, I have a hard time with that. I can sit down with someone. Like Warren, you and I could really sit down, and we can discuss whatever. We can talk about same-sex marriage. We can talk about abortion. We can talk about so many controversial, well, come on, that's just controversial. Those are very controversial with most people. And I think we could show love and appreciation for two people. So that's the takeaway I would love people to go away with today and realize is that you can be on the polar opposite sides. Can you find a point of agreement? And the point of agreement that, correct me if I'm wrong, Warren, the point of agreement with us, the reason that you and I think, get along, is that we value each other as a human being. There is a love there. It's not issues-based. Our relationship is not issues-based. There are some other things that we get along with, but we don't talk about some of the things I don't think we do because it's not as relevant as the conversations we do have.
Absolutely. I find some frustration, and actually where it came up is deciding to make this a topic today. I was thinking this morning, and I was coming up, I don't know if it was the mood or it was just me because I didn't share this with anybody, some thoughts I had on current events and things, nothing that we've mentioned here, just to make sure that I'm not implying anything about what you've said. Just some completely random thoughts I had. And I was at the point of wanting to write these things down or share them as just like great one-liners. For some reason, I was in a mood to write one-liners this morning. And every single one of them was inappropriate to share with any audience. Or at least any of my audiences. And I got thinking like, okay, that I'm a diplomatic. I could get away with saying a lot of things, but I didn't want the energy that would come from going any further with that. And I'm prepared, even if you ask, to say, I don't remember what I was thinking at the time. I just remember having that feeling of I don't want to go any farther with this. I want to defend somebody who's in the news, who everybody else hates.
I'm curious why you didn't say anything. I'm really curious.
Let's pick one. The one that comes to mind right now wasn't one of those that I don't have a good one-liner or anything, is the mayor of Toronto. This guy's Canadian, and I love to make jokes about Canadians. This guy looks to me as some kind of politician that'd be an easy score, but I'm going like, how can I add value to my audience by talking about, this mayor who's had what appears to me as being, ridiculously large problems and is still around and still in the news. And I think most of my comments would be why are we bothering so much about it? And of course, I'm bothering because I'm bringing it up here, but I wanted to use an example that is as real as possible. Another good way to talk, and maybe that's how we should focus this, is dogs and cats. For purposes of illustration, I can be a cat person, and you obviously have your dog there, and I could say, I don't like pets. We shouldn't have them on the Hangout, and I certainly don't want you, taking an Instagram picture with that pet if it's reflecting on me. I could go that far, or I could say, I like dogs, but not that breed, or where's your cat? What's wrong with you? There's a lot of different positions somebody could take that be just like against. But what good would it do for us to talk about whether or not you should have a dog?
Yeah, I'm still curious why. Let's use the example of the conversation that you had, because it's actually not the issue. I want everybody on the call to really, on our show today, is to really go away with understanding it's not the issues that Warren and I are talking about. It's not same-sex marriage. It's not dogs versus cats. It's not Obama versus such and such. It's not. It is, because there's always going to be something. I don't care if it's your family reunion. There is going to be that relative that you may be joined by blood, but it's like, oh my gosh, why am I in this conversation with this person? I do not like them. I love them. I don't like them. So I think that's, remember that I just talked about that. It's like, I love people in my life. I may not like them. It is possible to love someone, I feel, but not like them. So do you pretend to like them? Do you fake like them? So going back to Warren's example, sitting down at this meal, is, I bet you caught yourself at a couple of times going, why am I in this conversation? I don't want to be in this conversation. Oh my gosh, can we talk about dogs? You know, I mean, can we talk about something else?
Or should we talk about cats and how Thomas is wrong to have a dog? You know, anything that could bring us together, and that's what I was looking for.
And here's the thing, and I think sometimes, no, I don't think, I'm being too polite about that, is that I strongly feel that if we want it to a different energy, we've at least got to acknowledge the dang elephant in the room. Because I've had to do that with a friend. I'm like, wow, I feel a little awkward and uncomfortable right now. I mean, what else is going on? Hey, I mean, what else is going on? I mean, sometimes it's actually talking out loud that I don't have another place to go. I mean, I don't have another route to go on this. Does that make sense? It's actually...
Oh, yeah, that's definitely it. Which is why it's good for us to talk about this here and any, you know, any kind of differences or whatever, because it's just real. It is what it is. You know, this conversation is not going to convince me that, you know, your choice of dog is better and I should switch, although it could. And that gets a lot into what people talk about being influential. You know, and I do hang out with people I find to be influential. There was so much good. I could, you know, enumerate 10 things, and did during the conversation last week. That person was like, you know, this is great. This is like, you know, you're an expert on this topic, or you've lived in Las Vegas longer than me, or you're connected with the company I'd like to get to know better and perhaps do business with. There were many really good reasons, or we know common people. And it just seems like what really would seem fake is to try to change from two humans getting along with each other into, well, I can't possibly deal with you because, you know, you vote for blah, blah, blah. You know, I left dumbfounded that, you know, how could this person think like that? At the same time, not really, there wasn't like, can I get out of this conversation? I politely was trying to take myself out of the conversation a half hour before it ended. But then I also found that the information was intriguing, and I learned from listening to somebody with a completely different view of the world. So, I mean, it's not that bad, you know. I mean, I'm a better person for it. Did I win any points by convincing her to think like me? No, that wasn't my goal. My goal was to eat my sandwich, and when I saw somebody that I could add a little value to their eating of the sandwich and my eating of the sandwich, we did. We actually talked about health care and totally disagree on the issues, but a person living in the same town who is also a small business person, entrepreneur, and needs to have health insurance, we found a lot in common that we talked about. I said, hey, I went to this place, and, oh, this worked okay, and, you know, I'm now getting a better price on my prescriptions. And, you know, so things were in there that were wonderful. And I suppose what I say, if I did right, if I, you know, want to put it that way, is that I felt like I was doing the right thing by listening and engaging on a level we could. And then when I heard something that goes, what's that? Okay, well, let me listen. Let me hear your side of the story. And I guess my takeaway from it is I'm better off by talking to somebody that I don't agree with and not arguing, and not arguing like you say to be polite and say, oh, yes, that's wonderful. I totally agree that dogs are wonderful, and meanwhile thinking to myself like I'm just lying to get through this conversation. For the record, I do not have an opinion on your dog. I'm just using that as an example.
Listen, Warren, I mean, these are listen, I remember I told you, I said, when we were kind of in our green room, we were like thinking about, well, go this direction, go that direction. I'm like, turn on the friggin' recording, dude. This is probably going to be the best one. And I got to be honest, this is probably one of the better conversations that we've had. And I want to make sure that I'm putting a frame around this for those that are listening and eavesdropping, is because this is something that happens on a regular basis with everyone. We can sit on this show. I know a lot of times we'll go like, hey, listen, it's all sometimes it's like the shiny, happy moments and all of that. Real life is dealing with all sorts of people, and humans are complex. They are not robots. They do and say funny things. Me, and I'm going to own something right here, and I know that I'm just standing in for lots of other people, is that I am moody. Sometimes I don't want to hear your crap. I'm grumpy. I'm happy. I'm talkative. Sometimes I'm silent. Sometimes I'm completely uninterested in another person. And it's like, oh my gosh, horrifying. This is the guy that wrote Becoming a Masterful Networker. Warren Whitlock's the guy that wrote the Twitter revolution. I mean, oh my gosh, how could you not be interested in another person? It's because we're human. And I think the thing that we have to remember is to connect really awesomely with another person also requires us being maybe that leader in that moment and identifying the elephant in the room. Sometimes the elephant in the room is how you're feeling, not necessarily the other person. It's like, gosh, I'm uncomfortable, or, and there's been instances, I'll give you a live example right here with Warren. And as embarrassing as it sounds, I'm going to say it. But he's going to know this he's going to probably respect me more after I say this. And that is that sometimes, you and I'll be on not necessarily these hangouts, but we'll be talking somewhere, and I'm just checked out. I'm gone. I mean, I'm tired. It's not Warren. It's because I'm tired, I'm thinking about something else, I'm worried about something, or I'm bored. It'd be easy for me to say, oh, Warren's boring and he rambles on. Well, that's, as far as I'm concerned, I own that. I own that. Is that Warren's problem? It is not Warren's problem. Just like it's not another person's problem, it's how we respond to them, how we engage. But it would be inauthentic, I think, to go so far is that we compromise ourselves at a mental and emotional place. Like, for instance, if I was really checked out from a conversation with you, Warren, I think it would be inauthentic, and I would be violating my own integrity I was like, oh, that was a stimulating conversation. Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. You're so interesting, Warren. Because it doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve me.
Oh yeah, you're right on there, because for sure I can get started telling stories, and I have a friend I think about every time this comes up that we used to talk for an hour or two a day. We were both in the same position of our careers, and had the time. And so that was my friend I hung out with. And I can think of times when I'm telling him something and he seems to have disappeared or put me on mute or whatever. And then one time I'm hanging out with him and his new girlfriend at some event that we all were at, and we're talking and they're giggling a bit, and he just breaks out and says, yes, it's to understand this reference I just made about salad is that there was one time where he put the phone on mute, told the girlfriend that he didn't need to worry, I would be going for a while, made a salad, ate the salad, cleaned up the dish, put it away, and then came back to the conversation. And I was talking the whole time. I hope that he had it on the loudspeaker and listening, and it wasn't when he was with the girlfriend. It was when he was by himself. And so, I could take that as being like, what the heck? You don't like me? Why am I bothering to tell you all these wonderful stories? And I'm sure that there are people who just listen to me tell that story who go like, what? Why am I listening to this guy? That's okay. Can he shut up so we can get more of Thomas? And you know what? That's okay, and that's authentic. If you told me I really enjoyed this, I get those comments sometimes on a blog or a radio show, or the comment, good show, or the retweet without bothering to read the post. In fact, I prefer to get the one where they said, well, this is stupid, and they obviously didn't read that the headline was just an attention getter, and I totally agree with them. I'd rather get that than just the retweet and have no idea what they're thinking. And of course, what I really want is to engage and find out that somebody has said, I read the article, and point number 4 is just crap. What were you saying? Or I tried to read the article and I fell asleep. You know what? That's better feedback. Well, and what I own is that it's my job when I want to get something communicated to you and point number 4 is losing you, to go back and edit out number 4.
Yeah. Yeah, you got me thinking on that one. Is like, as you're going through that, it's one of those you got to start with. Okay, this is, and I'm really directing this because I always want to make sure that, let's say someone, if you're watching and you're starting, or you're not as comfortable being upfront and honest and inappropriate. As a friend of mine, she says, oh my gosh, if you really want something in life, why are you being so damn polite and appropriate? I mean, be a little more inappropriate, and it's like, that's a debate, that's philosophical discussion, But I think in the big picture, every one of us have to decide that the state of being that we feel right now, if you feel happy, frustrated, joy, just blissful, whatever, we have to start remembering that this starts from a place of choice and responsibility. And please understand, I'm not prophesizing. I'm kind of being open and telling you this is my life. And I think everyone needs to understand is that all of us have hopes, dreams, fears, stuff that we want to do. We've got the good and the bad and all that. And we try to keep that from each other. But really, that transparency, that openness, that authenticity is the key to unlocking the connection door. I promise you it is. Even that moment when you tell the person in the deli, it's just like, gosh, this is kind of uncomfortable. Hey, what else is going on? I mean, how's the family? And switching gears. Now you might be watching us right now and going like, oh my gosh, that would be so inappropriate and that would feel so weird. Stop projecting into the future. Be willing to lead in that moment and at least being honest that it's uncomfortable and switch gears and go in a different direction. And if you think that that's pure BS and what Warren and I have been talking about, it's like, I'm not listening to those two. Good for you too. You're a big boy or girl. You can make your own decision. Come from a place of choice. You want to bitch at us in the comments? Great, fine. If that helps you feel better, that's terrific. Or if you want to give a compliment, we love that too. But Warren and I definitely love the honesty. If done from a place, hopefully from a place of love and you genuinely want to contribute. Because let's be honest, there are haters, there are trolls, there are just jerks out there. I usually minimize my interactions with them because it's just not constructive. It's not, that doesn't make sense. I'm not saying be that kind of person, but I guess that's all relative to the person that's receiving the feedback, isn't it, Warren?
I think you've really hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I say, you gotta love the people that you're doing business with, that you're talking to, and by love, I'm talking about that universal. Just love everybody. Love mankind. You don't have to find them attractive or think you agree with them or anything. There's no rules for it. You also are totally allowed to own that there's a particular person, and when you see them, you walk the other direction. That's okay, but own it. That's you. That's not them. You get to decide that. And, they may be a jerk and you don't want anything to do with them, and that's fine. If you decide you're going to interact with somebody, don't be polite, but love them. And I think it's possible to love somebody you don't like, as Thomas told us earlier. I think it goes to my life philosophy of I can't always choose what I'm doing, but I can choose whether or not I'm having fun. That means I have to change my frame of reference to it. I own that. I own the way I look at things, the way I look at life. And if I can't change what I'm doing, I can change how I look at it. And then bottom line, as you say often, is you get the choice to love. And if you don't feel loving, look at yourself. Maybe what you need to do in the situation is get out of there and not have anything to do with them. It's too hurtful or whatever, but that is yourself. I mean, don't just say that group are jerks and I want nothing to do with them, because that's not going to help you.
Right.
Love is always the answer. So that sums it up for me. So
I guess that's why the book title is Love the One You're With.
I think it's so.
As soon as you just said that, it came around to the working title for the book.
Right. Well, if I was with you and you love your dog and I want to get along with you, then I'm going to pet the dog and say hello and say, what can I do? What is it I can learn from hanging out with this dog? Unless it's like, oh no, the dog's biting me. Now I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that. And the honest truth, after all the jokes about dogs and cats and everything, is I prefer dogs over cats, and I prefer not having them run around, needlessly. There's always pets in my house, but it's never my choice, and that's okay because I love the people that bring the pets into the house, and so it's okay. I came up with what my position is on it, and I'm okay, and I don't need anybody else to think like me. I don't need to dictate that there's going to be rules about how you interact with me like that. And in fact, the first two words of the Twitter book are in all caps, no rules. We reacted to somebody trying to say how many friends you should have or how many times a day you should post, and just said, let's throw away the rules. The rules that you have to live by is how you're gonna view the world and get along the way it is, because you're not going to get away with not owning it at some point. Putting that off and trying to pretend it's somebody else's fault just doesn't help.
Right.
Go ahead and try if you want. That's fine. I don't care. Set all the rules you want. And if you're listening at this point, then I guess what we're saying is resonating enough with you to put up with all the things that are wrong with us. And we'd like to keep on doing that. So please share this and, hit the like and subscribe and all the things that you're supposed to do. And by all means, comment. That's why I put up today, say hello, let's talk. I want to have more conversations with people that are honest.
Yeah, let's give us very specific. I always like to see very specific. I know I always think when someone says, oh, comment, I'm like, what does that mean? It's like, well, what did you like best? Well, what resonated for you? What worked for you? And what doesn't work for you? When you go and put this into practice, what's working? I mean, I like to learn from you. Is what is working for you? It's, here's one thing to say is like, oh, well, Warren, I disagree, but one thing that is working for me is this, but that other thing isn't working. Great. I love to hear stuff.
That's a fantastic comment. Yeah, I go for that, and I refrain from saying, please don't bother saying like or me too or something like that. But I got to admit, I have an ego. I like that. It's great for ratings. That people do thumbs up and don't say anything else. That's fine. And if you honestly think that something Thomas said is going to change your life, please share it. I want to know that. I want to know exactly what it is. Maybe I missed something.
Yeah.
So share as much as you can, or as much you feel comfortable with, and we'll take the positive nonsense. But again, it's only, I guess it's being polite to accept your positive nonsense. No, it's my ego. I get off on hearing your likes and great comment. So do that. Leave it with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.